I have been hunting in the Appalachian backcountry for 31 years. I want that number to land before I tell you what happened. 31 years. I have been in these mountains in every season, in every kind of weather, in the dark hours before dawn and the hours after last light when most people have already headed back to their vehicles. I have encountered black bears at close range, closer than I would have liked. I have had bobcats cross my path. I have heard the sound a coyote pack makes when it is working close, and the sound it makes when it is far away, and I know the difference. I know these mountains. I know what lives in them. What I encountered in a hollow in the Nantahala in October of that year. I have never been able to explain. And I have tried. I was deer hunting, sitting in a ground blind at the edge of a hollow, a low area between two ridges where deer regularly crossed at first and last light. It was late afternoon, maybe 45 minutes before last legal shooting light. The woods were doing what the woods do in October, birds settling, the wind dropping, the specific quality of light that late October produces in hardwood country. I was watching the far edge of the hollow, and then the woods went quiet. I have described the woods going quiet before. In 31 years I know what it means. Something moved, something significant, something the birds and small animals decided to take seriously. I took it seriously. I was scanning the hollow when I heard the sound. I did not have a word for it. I have tried, in conversations with other hunters, with wildlife biologists I know, with people who know the sounds of Appalachian fauna better than almost anyone, I have tried to find a word for it. The closest I can come is this. Imagine the sound a large animal makes when it exhales forcefully. Now imagine that sound is not quite right for any large animal you have ever heard. Too low for a deer. Wrong cadence for a bear. Too deliberate for any bird. It came from the far tree line, maybe 60 yards. I did not see what made it, but I watched that tree line very carefully after that, and at the edge, where the trees met the hollow's open floor, something was moving through the undergrowth. Something large. I have seen deer move through undergrowth. I have seen bears move through undergrowth. This was neither. The movement was upright in a way that was not a bear, not on four legs, not browsing, moving through the trees in a way that was, I keep coming back to this word, purposeful, heading across the hollow in my direction. It did not come into the open. It stayed at the tree line, and when it reached the point directly across from my blind, directly across the hollow, maybe 60 yards, it stopped. I could not see it clearly. The undergrowth was thick and the light was fading. But it had stopped, and I had the specific, physical, unmistakable sensation of being looked at, not observed. Looked at, the way a person looks at something, the way something with intention looks at something. I did not move. I sat in that blind, and I did not breathe deeply, and I watched that tree line for what was probably 4 minutes and felt like 40. Then the undergrowth moved again, moving away, back up the ridge. The woods stayed quiet for another 10 minutes after it left. Then the birds came back. I packed out that hollow in last light, moving faster than I normally move. I have told this story to 4 other hunters who work that specific drainage. 2 of them have had encounters in the same hollow they cannot explain. Different years, similar descriptions. I cannot tell you what it was. What I can tell you is what it was not. It was not a deer. It was not a bear. It was not any animal I have encountered in 31 years of hunting these mountains. And it knew I was there. I have been canyoneering in Utah for 12 years. Slot canyons, technical descents, the kind of terrain that most people see in photographs and that I have spent years learning to move through safely. I know desert canyon country. I know the sounds it makes, the echo that slot canyon walls produce, the way wind moves differently through a narrow passage, the sound of water in a drainage after rain that can be miles away. I know the wildlife, the ravens, the lizards, the occasional rattlesnake that requires attention, the ringtail cats that move at night in the canyon bottoms. I know this landscape, what happened in a remote canyon system in the San Rafael Swell in September of that year. I cannot explain it within any category I have. I was 3 days into a solo technical descent, a route I had researched extensively but never completed. A canyon system that sees perhaps a dozen parties per year due to the technical difficulty and remote access. On the 3rd day I was moving through a section of the lower canyon, wide enough to move through comfortably, but with walls that rose 200 feet on either side. In these canyons you move in shadow for most of the day. The light is indirect, filtered by the slot above you. It produces a specific visual quality, like moving through the bottom of something, which is exactly what you are doing. I had been moving for about 2 hours when I heard it, a sound from somewhere ahead and above, not from the canyon floor, from the walls, from a height. The canyon walls in this section had ledge systems, narrow horizontal formations created by differential erosion, some a few inches wide, some wide enough to stand on. The sound was coming from a ledge system about 60 feet up the left wall, a sound I can only describe as vocalizing. Not animal vocalizing in any category I know. Not bird, not mammal. Structured sound. With pattern. With repetition. Almost, and I use this word knowing how it sounds, almost like language. Not any language. Pattern that had the quality of language. I stopped moving. I looked up at the ledge system. I could not see the source. The ledge was in shadow and at an angle that made direct visual access impossible from the canyon floor. I waited. The sound stopped. I heard movement on the ledge. Weight-bearing movement. Something moving laterally along the ledge. I watched the section of wall. At a point where the ledge crossed a vertical crack, a point where something moving along the ledge would be briefly visible. I saw something. For approximately 2 seconds. A shape. Moving along the ledge. I can describe what I saw with complete specificity. It was not human. It was not any animal I have knowledge of. It was pale, the color of the canyon sandstone itself, which should have made it invisible, but the movement made it visible for those 2 seconds. It was large, and it moved along that ledge, 60 feet up a vertical canyon wall, with a fluidity that had no counterpart in any creature I could name. Then it was past the crack and back in shadow. I heard the vocalizing sound once more. From further up the canyon, moving away. I camped that night in the most enclosed section of the canyon I could find, a pour-off alcove with walls on 3 sides. I did not sleep. I exited the canyon the following morning. I have spoken to 2 other experienced canyoneers who have run routes in that system. One of them, without me describing what I saw, described hearing the same sound. In the same section of canyon. Called it the canyon voice. Said he had never gone back. I have not gone back either. My family has fished and trapped this marsh for 4 generations. I want you to understand what that means. For generations of people who went out into this specific piece of Louisiana coastal marsh and learned it the way you only learn a place when your livelihood depends on it. The channels, the tides, the wildlife, every species that lives in these marshes, I know them. Alligators, nutria, muskrat, the birds, egrets, roseate spoonbills, the various herons, the fish and shellfish. I know what lives here, and I know what is not. In the summer of that year, I was running crab traps in a section of the marsh that my family has worked for as long as I can remember. Early morning, the specific predawn quality of a Louisiana marsh in summer. Warm already, humid, the sky lightening in the east, but the marsh still and near dark. I was moving through a shallow channel in my flat-bottomed boat. The marsh was doing what it does, birds calling, the occasional splash of something moving in the grass. Normal, at a bend in the channel, a section where the grass grew tall on both sides and the channel narrowed. I cut the motor to drift through quietly, and I heard something in the grass to my left. Something large, moving through the marsh grass with significant size and weight. Marsh grass in that section grows 5 to 6 feet high. Dense. You cannot see through it. You track what's in it by the movement of the grass itself. The movement was large. I have seen large alligators move through this grass. I have seen nutria colonies moving as a group. This was different. The movement was vertical in a way that grass movement is not vertical when something is crawling through it. The grass was being displaced at a height, not just at the base, not the movement of a gator, but at a height of 4 or 5 feet. Something moving through the grass at a height of 4 or 5 feet. The movement was coming toward the channel, toward my boat. I reached for the motor. Before I could start it, the grass at the channel edge moved, parted. Something looked at me. I have described this moment to my brother and my father, and 2 men I have fished with for 20 years. I cannot get anyone to tell me what it was. The eyes were not at water level, not at gator level. They were higher, at a height that suggested whatever was attached to them was substantial. The eyes caught the light in a way I had not seen before in this marsh, in a way I do not know how to categorize. We looked at each other for, I believe, about 3 seconds. Then the grass closed. The movement went away from the channel, back into the marsh, away from me. I started my motor. I ran those traps faster than I have ever run them in my life. I was back at the landing before the sun was fully up. I have been fishing and trapping this marsh my whole life. I have been in it before dawn thousands of times. I have never seen eyes at that height in the marsh grass. I have never seen them catch light that way. I went back the following morning. I went back because 4 generations of my family have worked this marsh, and I was not going to let 3 seconds in a channel change that. But I went back with my brother, and I have not run that channel alone since.